All right, Rory. So we back for another episode of Don't Know Ball.
Yes.
Show where we could let our fans know exactly how much of ball we do not know, but it's okay because we invite people on that can kind of help us along the way. Mm-hmm. Today we are joined by a legend.
It's one of the few legends that we've had.
Definitely a legend. Somebody that I think has helped the NFL look the way it looks today. Mm-hmm. At the quarterback position. So with the second pick in the 1999 NFL draft, Rory, the Philadelphia Eagles selected a legend, a dog, a competitor, one of the greatest ever from the University of Syracuse, Donovan Mcnabb.
And in
we double salute Donovan.
True Philly fashion, they booed the person that made their franchise.
Yes, which was absolutely crazy. But we are joined by the legend Donovan Mcnabb. Sir, how you feeling, Donovan?
I'm feeling outstanding, brothers. How y'all doing?
Great. You look good. You look great. You look like you can still play. What you doing, man? You trying to get back out there?
Man, by the way, they giving that money out. I'm really trying to figure out a way to get 1 year.
Yeah, 1 year contract. Yeah,
all my kids stuff, but you know what it's meant. Just still continue to work out, man. My kids are all active in sports. I have a daughter that's just graduated from Syracuse who played with the Syracuse women's basketball team.
Dope.
She'll be fulfilling.
Salute to your wife as well. She played.
Absolutely, I appreciate that. I got twins that are 16 and one plays football and basketball. My daughter, she plays softball and basketball. Then I have a hockey player who's also a high schooler. So, man, I'm just staying busy, keeping my sexy alive.
Yeah.
Just working out every day.
Donovan just told us basically all his kids are working.
First of all, he has
y'all gonna earn this. Y'all gonna earn y'all.
He has a kid that plays hockey in Arizona, so they have to be the best hockey player on earth.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is, man, I got a nephew that's actually playing, I think tonight, for the Edmonton Oilers.
Oh, wow.
Dope.
Okay.
Nephew Darnell Nurse.
Shout out to Darnell Nurse.
The defenseman for the Edmonton Oilers. So this is round 2 against the Florida Panthers for the Stanley Cup. Unfortunately, they didn't win it last year in Game 7, but we'll see this year be different.
So we rooting for Edmonton now.
Of course.
We have to.
I mean, you love Canadians.
Yeah, we have to. We have to root for Edmonton now. Donovan, so talk to us about the early years. Growing up, you grew up in Chicago. You actually played basketball as well.
Yes.
You played with
Antoine Walker.
You played with Twan, right?
Antoine Walker.
Yeah. What was it like growing up? Like we hear about how tough it is in Chicago, but Chicago is known for breeding phenomenal athletes and phenomenal ball players. What is it about the city of Chicago that breeds, whether it's just basketball, but it's like basketball and football? What is it about Chicago?
The thing about it, I think that's missing in today's game for a lot of these kids is we didn't have trainers. We went out to the park and played.
Good point.
So it's about competing out on the blacktop. And for all of us, it didn't matter if you played football, it didn't matter if you ran track, whatever, you still picked up a basketball and you went out to compete. And so what's different about Chicago is we come from around dogs. Like if you ain't tough minded, if you ain't tough physically coming out of Chicago, you ain't really from the crib. And so it's just for a lot of the skilled guys that we had. We mentioned Antoine Walker, who I went to high school with. People don't realize Antoine was 6'9", 6'7" in high school. And you talk about in the 90s, you in high school at 6'7", you almost walk around like you're 7 foot.
Right.
Like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And he was the guy that can put the ball on the floor. He can see the floor. He was what you see of the modern day LeBron James, And so he was dynamic. We had a lot of other guys that came out of the Chicago area that kind of blew up. But as far as athletes are concerned, we had a lot of great football players that ran track or played any other sport, but it was just they end up going to these Power 4 schools and being able to make their mark, in which as a young kid growing up, it gave us hope. It gave us opportunity that we felt like we can get out of the hood, so to speak, or out of Chicago and go and see other things.
What did Antoine play football as well?
Antoine actually played football when he was young. He could throw. But obviously when
But you could throw
6'7",
better.
you ain't quarterback.
Yeah.
And so, I think what happened was at that particular point, he already had his mindset that he was going to just strictly play strictly play basketball. But when we played gym class or, we'd do our flag football tag or whatever in recess or whatever it may have been, he had an arm. He could play baseball though. He was a baseball player.
Okay. What brought you to Syracuse as opposed to maybe a Midwest college at the time?
Kevin Rogers was the quarterback coach at that particular time who ended up being the offensive coordinator. He and Coach Paul Pasqualoni came to Chicago and recruited me. And our offense was very similar to the Syracuse offense, just as Nebraska was at that time under Tom Osborne. And so those are my top two schools. And in Texas, Notre Dame were also followed in that whole recruiting process. But Syracuse was an opportunity for me to come in possibly as a redshirt freshman, redshirt my first year, and then play for the next 4 years and start running the same type of offense. And I just loved everything about the university. I wanted to become a sports broadcaster, and they were ranked in the top 2 or 3 at that particular point academically. So that was another in for me, as well as football and the opportunity to play basketball at Syracuse. So I thought it was just a great fit for me to have an opportunity to, one, graduate academically there at Syracuse and have the opportunity to play both sports.
See, Rory, I think that's gangsters. Donovan didn't give us an answer that was just like a jock answer. He was like, nah, their broadcast program was top 2 in the country. It's like, you don't hear high schoolers talking like that.
I'm thinking the league.
Yeah, I'm thinking like their broadcast journalism program, top 2 in the country. I got to go here. Talk to us about draft night. You got booed draft night.
Right.
And to this day, I still don't understand why they booed. What was that feeling initially when you hear your name? Because obviously it's something that, everybody dreams about that plays sports and hearing their name called on draft night. So you have your moment, but then your moment is met with boos from the fans that are in attendance. Did you take it personally, or did you just feel like these are just fans of maybe the Giants, the Jets that are in here that are just booing everybody?
Well, the funny thing is, obviously being from Chicago, I was always a Bears fan. And so I didn't know the dynamic of, the NFC East and, all of that at that particular point. And having the draft at Madison Square Garden, you would think there are a lot of Giants fans. There are a lot of fans there in general. And so the funny thing about me and my family, we laugh at about a lot of different stuff. Okay. And so when my name was called during the introduction, where they had introduced all of us that were back in the green room, there was slight boos then. And so when I came back in the green room with my family, me and my brother, we just started cracking up. And I looked at my dad, he was like, what was going on out there? I'm like, I thought they were booing, but, he was like, booing who? I'm like, booing me. But I don't know. I mean, if that's the case, that's on them. Right. And so when my name was called on actual TV, that's when the camera kind of panned to the Philadelphia fans and they booed. And if you see my face, that's when it became personal. Because now I thought they booed in the introduction, but now they booed while the TV cameras are rolling. Right. And so if you go back to the film, like I'm growing in Chicago, it's cold. Yeah. So I put the baseball hat on, I bend it up, and I put it down. And so, at that particular time, Paul Tagliabue, he would lift my hat up just so they could see my face, and I would grab it, bring it back down again. Yeah. Because I'm pissed. Yeah. I'm now pissed. And so I'm happy to be the first pick for the Philadelphia Eagles and the second pick in the overall draft. But now I'm pissed because now it's time for me to prove you wrong. And so that was my whole mentality from that point on, all throughout my career, that I was going to prove all the naysayers wrong.
Oh, so that's why he kicked the Giants' ass every time. We get it now. See, we getting these answers.
You're welcome.
We get these answers. We getting these answers now, Rory.
Did you feel that same energy in those first few preseason games, your rookie year, just from the Eagles fan base in general?
You know what? Not necessarily, because at that point as a rookie, I was trying to learn an offense, get comfortable in that offense, and also understand the difference between playing in college and playing in the NFL. So if you recall, my first preseason game was canceled. Okay. Because we played against the Baltimore Ravens, and at that point, they were on HBO on the Hard Knock series, and they came out and tested our field, which was not Lincoln Financial, it was the Vet, and there were potholes where the bases were from the baseball field, and they came out. I was like, nah, we ain't playing here. Like, and there was obviously a whole deal that happened with Wendell Davis and some other players that are kind of hurt themselves, torn their ACLs or whatever on that. So they chose not to play. And so my first preseason game was canceled. And I'm like, oh man, I mentally was all ready to get out here and play. And so I had to wait another week. But my preseason was all about me getting comfortable being in the NFL in this new offense and see what I can do in it.
How bad is it playing on those baseball fields / football fields back in the day? Because I feel like the Raiders did it for a while. Eagles
but
did
the
it.
Raiders did. But the Raiders theirs was on grass. And it was dirt. Ours was turf.
Okay.
So with that turf, I mean, they're divots. And so you're talking where the bases are, where, the actual dirt, it's just a lot of a combination of that. And that's why a couple years later, we end up going to field turf and changing that. And then led us to moving across the street over to Lincoln Financial, where they built that and be the home for the Philadelphia Eagles. But it was one, I was used to it. Because in Syracuse in the Big East at that particular point, for basketball, we're in football, we're playing against Temple University. Yeah. And we played there. Okay. So I was used to it.
Yeah.
And so for everyone else, it was something new.
And if you grow up playing, like you said, on the blacktop, talking about
absolutely
go left at the Honda, cut left at the Honda, like a little divot in the field, that ain't nothing, man. We just sewer caps, we ran over sewer caps, all of that, yeah.
When owners are making billions of dollars, get me off this baseball field.
No, for sure. I feel you on that. Let's go back to college.
I can dig it. We are worth millions of dollars.
Yeah, protect those knees.
When we were younger, we were trying to, scrap up some money so we could go to the corner store and get, the juice box or maybe a pickle or something.
Let's go back to college a little bit. How do you feel about, I have my reservations about the whole transfer portal and, the NIL thing. I do love that athletes are being paid. I think they should, because, you generate so much money for schools and universities and things like that. The transfer portal, though.
Right.
How does Donovan McNabb, how do you view the whole transfer portal thing?
You know what? I'm a fan, but not a fan. And remember, I get kids that are now in high school now getting recruited. And so I have a son that plays wide receiver here in Phoenix.
Okay.
And he's recruited. He's got 17, 18 offers right now. But my worry as a dad and former player is, are you recruiting these athletes out of high school to develop these kids? Or is it you're expecting them to come in ready? And if they're not ready, now, are you going in the transfer portal to pretty much recruit over them to get someone that has already been in the program, understands the academic aspect of it, and studying and being able to play football, going through the regiment? And then also, are you bringing him in for the next 2 to 3 years, where now that kind of pushes the development back from my son going in? And what does that mean? Now we have to enter the transfer portal, and now kids will start going around where it's modern day free agency.
Right.
And with the NIL stuff, now you bring in a kid who may not be as talented as your son or my son that's coming in young, and you already offered him and he signed now for $1 million. So now he has to play.
Right.
He has to play because you're giving him $1 million and he's probably got some exotic car deal that he's driving around on campus. And this kid is standing next to my son on the sideline, but he's probably the first one to go in because he's already been in college. You're already giving him $1 million, whatever it may be.
Right.
I worry about where the landscape of the playing field is, because if you look at across the collegiate level right now, majority of the schools that are offering these big contracts, big deals to these kids out of the transfer portal, these are the teams that are still scratching the surface of trying to get up to the top, where the Ohio States are, where, you know what I'm saying, where all these teams are that are consistently at that level. And so now you're just throwing money away to try to compete at that level, but find yourself still at that median. And so I love the fact that these kids are getting rewarded for their potential talent or maybe stuff that they've already accomplished, but they're going to have to put a cap on this at some point.
I hear that. I mean, speaking of athletes getting their just due, I feel like at your peak, the jersey era was also at its peak. And I think
that's where we would have made our money. We would have made our money for the jerseys, T-shirts, hats. It wouldn't have been so much of where these kids are now. We would have had sponsorships like grocery stores and what I'm saying, little stuff like mom and pop shops. These dudes, they making $500,000 to go smile in front of a candy store. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I mean, but even in the pros, I feel like, of course, NFL jerseys are always going to sell no matter what. But the early 2000s and mid 2000s, that whole jersey culture really, really hit. And I felt you could not escape a Donovan McNabb jersey in the mid 2000s.
No.
Was that a big part of your contracts at that time?
Contracts for us?
Yes, of you getting a piece of your jersey that's being sold.
I was in the era where we didn't receive any money, any NIL, because remember Charles O'Bannon.
I'm saying when you were the Eagles, not with Syracuse.
With the Eagles, yeah, you get your royalties from the NFL, but it wasn't to the point. The piece of the percentage in which we receive is not to where it's at now.
Yeah,
okay.
Like I remember getting my royalties for the men in their apparel, but I also got royalties from the females in the jersey sales that I was able to receive from that. From the females wearing my jerseys. At that particular point, they made the pink and white jerseys for the ladies.
Yeah.
They also had the regular jerseys for us, but my pink and white jerseys for the ladies were high as well. So that was a percentage that I received that really I appreciated at that particular point. But the game has changed and has evolved. We're talking almost 50. I've been out of the game now almost 13, 14 years. And so, it's I love where it's evolving, where it's going. I'm not one of these old guys that's like, I wish they need to make it what we made. Nah,
I feel like you maybe contributed to the NBA dress code, because wasn't the last straw for Iverson, he had your jersey on backwards walking into the arena? I think that was the last straw for the league.
We made one for Iverson. Because AI and I came out of high school pretty much together. And so Kobe wore my jersey.
Okay.
Sideline, and Kobe was a big Eagles fan. And so, for in the NBA at that particular point, because of football, when we played at home games or travel, we wore suits or sport coats.
Yeah.
Remember, the game changed in the NBA where they had to dress. There was a dress code if you didn't play, you sit on the sideline, and then they fought that. And that's when AI and all of them start wearing sweatsuits and all of that stuff. So
yeah.
Do you have any great AI or Kobe stories?
Kobe and I went golfing in California. It was actually a weird time because that was when Michael Jackson passed away.
Oh, wow.
We were all on the golf course together, me and him, just talking. We kind of stayed in contact. And then my oldest daughter I believe she may have been 1 or 2 years older than Gigi. And so we both coached club girls basketball. And we got a chance to be in a couple tournaments together and sit down and talk and just talk about the future of where women's basketball is and at that particular point. So unfortunately, what happened to Kobe will go down as one of the greatest of all time.
Absolutely.
And just what his impact, and like I mentioned, his impact not only in the men's game, but also in the women's game as well, of what he transcended for a lot of these young girls that are now going into the collegiate level and coming out of it. So for him, and then me and AI, we had so much fun together anyway in Philadelphia. What he was doing across the street over with the Sixers, and then coming over what we were doing at that particular time when they went to the World Championship playing against the Lakers. I think we went to the Super Bowl that year. The Phillies were winning at that particular time. So Philadelphia was a hotbed for a couple years.
Y'all had Philly on fire.
Yeah.
Y'all had Philly on fire for sure.
Siegel, Petey Crack,
Freeway,
we had it all popping.
The early 2000s for Philly was
Philly was
dominant.
on fire. So we just had the NFL draft a couple months ago, and obviously the big news coming out was Shedeur Sanders dropping to the 5th round. Now I attribute you to a lot of the reason why the NFL quarterback position looks the way it looks today. Obviously, a lot of these guys grew up watching you and know who you are and saw a lot of your games. How did you feel watching that? Like, what was your mindset? And how did you feel about seeing Shedeur, and Coach Prime having to deal and go through that situation?
As as now an evaluator, ever since I left the game, obviously being a part of the media and being on that side of it and knowing from both sides of it, I felt like he would drop. After Cam Ward, there were a few teams that needed quarterbacks at that particular point. I didn't think they were great landing spots for him. And after, I think it might have been New Orleans, I think at 8 or 9, everybody was banking on Pittsburgh at, I think, 21. And everybody saying, well, Mike Tomlin don't take you,
Right.
Mike is a guy that's always going to reach out and try to help our community, with black quarterbacks. So you look at the roster in which he's had since he's been there. I mean, from the Charlie Batches, the Dennis Dixons, to Mike Vick, to, you know what I'm saying? So the list goes on. And when he decided to go another direction and not drafting Shador, my antennas went up because, in today's game, the thing that I want to see from these young kids is a little bit more professionalism.
Okay.
And I say that because you look at on the sideline of these games, these kids out here with about $150,000, $200,000 worth of gold on their neck or chains. And I'm like, first of all, it all starts with the coaching staff of not allowing that. Let's get polo shirts and look presentable. And so now when you go through the draft of what's been said and all of this of not being prepared for these meetings or whatever it may be, I know in the recent years, I want to say the last 7 to 10 years or so, maybe deeper, what these teams do is they send you a DVD of the plays, the install plays that they want you to look at and go over. So now when they come in, you have to now be able to get on the board and explain that. And from what I understand, he wasn't able to do that. And then they kind of kept talking about the headphones and, he kept talking about himself legendary and blah, blah, blah. And, all of this, which I don't know for sure. Yeah. Because I wasn't in the room or whatever it may be.
Right.
But I just want these young guys to understand the business aspect of things, of how to look presentable, present yourself in the right way when you're sitting and talking to these teams, because it's a job interview. At the end of the day, it's a job interview. They want to know, can you be a CEO of their company with 10 to 20 to $30 million on the table, and can you handle that? You know what I mean? Still be focused on the task at hand. So I didn't think he would drop to the 5th round. That's a real big drop. Normally it would probably happen in the 3rd round, mid-second. But the funny thing for me is when Mel Kiper was up on stage and he's harping,
some bullshit.
What they're doing, they don't know how to evaluate quarterbacks. When just last year, or 2 years ago, he was pushing for Will Levis to be in that same position. Yeah. And it didn't work out for Will Levis. So.
Yeah, well, Mel is,
Mel
not
Kiper.
always the best judge of talent when it comes to quarterbacks, especially during the draft.
I wouldn't be able to pick up and learn the West Coast offense for like 3-4 years.
And then fucking defined one.
Yeah.
But, on your way to your first EA Sports meeting, did you have in the back of your mind, maybe the Madden curse is real?
You know what? I'm not a big guy to believe in curses. I'm not. Even that I got hurt in years, I don't believe in that. Now, people will say, well, me and Mike Vick and I think Ray got hurt or whatever, but things have changed over the recent years for guys that have been on the cover of Madden. Expectations are higher after you're on the cover. People were expecting great things or whatever. If you have a down year compared to the previous year, then everyone looks at it in that particular way. But I'm not a big believer in the curses.
What's the process like with that? Outside of you just being on the cover, were you heavily involved when they put the green suit on you and have to get your mannerisms and everything? What's the process of making the Madden game?
I'm trying to remember. I know I went to San Diego and did some of that stuff with the bulbs and stuff. Or I did some of that stuff. But you got to remember too, at that time there was no 4K or whatever.
Right.
We talking just about.
We just saw your number. We just saw your number. We saw your number. That's it.
You got closed caption. You got like 4 cameras. Now you got cameras everywhere. But, it was an exciting time for me because we were all playing Madden at that time while we're playing.
Right.
There was no fantasy football. There was none of this other stuff. It was, hey, man, you get to one of your boys' house, man, you grab a drink. Everybody sitting there and order some pizza. Hey, man, I'm up first. Like, you're playing Madden all night. Like, now it's like on the computer, it's internet, it's all this other stuff that's going on. And so, man, it was a great honor for me.
I have to ask, in the locker room, when the new Madden game drops, is anyone upset about their rating?
I was. At that point, you got to remember, at that point, we were just playing.
Yeah.
I was, because I think I did an event, and it was me and Tony Gonzalez. And they were talking to Tony about his speed, his catches.
Yeah.
And so I think at that point, Tony might have had a 92 speed or something to that effect. And I had like an 86 or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait a minute. Like,
we could go outside and race right now.
You know what I'm saying? I'm like, yo, we could line up. Like, I know y'all would think he's faster than me. But, it was like he was talking about it. And that was all my mindset, like the speed. Like, I'm faster than him.
Right.
But it was just, it's still, to that point at that time, man, it was just an honor to be on the cover. Because here's a kid out of Chicago who, we got the Chicago Sun-Times newspaper, WGN TV, we got that's our social media. That's if you make it in the paper in Chicago, that means you did something.
Right.
And so going to Syracuse, where we got the Syracuse, newspaper, that's a school paper, and then obviously at Syracuse, that was a big thing. Now we're talking about on a cover of a video game that I know everybody in America is playing.
Yeah.
Like, that was a real big honor for me. And I was on the cover of Backyard Football.
Shit. I forgot about that.
Yeah, come on.
I totally forgot about Backyard Football.
Yeah, I forgot about that one.
Come on. That was before Neo Geo and all that other stuff.
Yeah. I will say, I share with you the same. Tony Gonzalez is a legend. But 92 speed is fucking crazy for Tony Gonzalez.
Yeah, I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Like,
what was Marshall Falk? Like,
seriously. Like, what I'm saying. So the whole 99 ratings and all that stuff, that's cute now. But yeah, we wasn't getting all that back in the day.
So let's talk about the Super Bowl. So what happened? What's the story about Donovan McNabb throwing up?
It's false.
Didn't happen.
No Willie Beam and shit? Okay.
It's false. It didn't happen. There's no video of it. I can tell you straight up top, it didn't happen. Did I get hit in the mouth? Yeah.
Okay.
I got hit in the mouth like the third play of the game from Teddy Bruschi, like right up under the chin.
It would be Teddy Bruschi.
Yeah. So,
great media guy now too.
Yeah.
But it was interesting because we lost the game. And I think there were a comment by one of my offensive linemen or somebody said like I was tired or whatever it may have been. Hell yeah, I'm tired. We playing the Super Bowl. But I'm like, okay. And then it went to, throwing up or whatever. And I was like, what are y'all talking about? So this has been now 20 plus years and everybody's still talking about it. There's no video of me throwing up. Like, it didn't happen.
If social media existed at that time, do you think
it would have ended? It would have ended right after that. Because you have no footage or no evidence in that.
Mm-hmm. Would you have cleared it up though? Like say a Twitter or Instagram existed?
Because the thing with me is I'm not going to give any more legs or energy or gas to something that doesn't make sense.
Okay.
And so I never talk about anything unless it's presented to me. And then I gave the same answers. Like for 20 years, I've been giving the same answers.
Right.
But it's still a question people keep bringing up.
And I mean, even though it was back when there wasn't like cell phone cameras, it was the fucking Super Bowl. Yeah. Somebody would have that footage.
Cameras everywhere. Cameras everywhere.
The only thing not boosted with Boost Mobile is the prices mall. I freestyled that. They didn't even tell me to say that.
Nice.
Nah, that was bars. With Boost Mobile, you pay $25 a month forever. That is unlimited talk, text, and data starting at just $25 a month with no price hikes.
5G speeds not available in all areas. After 30 GB, customers may experience slower speeds. Customers will pay $25 a month as long as they remain active on the Boost Unlimited plan. So with the quarterback position now in the NFL, Who is some of your guys that you look at that you can't, like, you have to watch their game? Like, I gotta watch. I love watching him play. He approaches the game the right way. Who are some of those guys for you?
Well, it starts with Patrick because I have that relationship with Patrick. Obviously, being coached by Andy Reid,
right?
And I've talked to Patrick on many occasions. Almost every Super Bowl. Every Super Bowl that I talked to the team, they won.
Oh wow!
And the team, and the time I didn't, we won. So, so it worked.
Where's your
well.
alliance?
It worked out well in New Orleans.
Yeah.
But Andy's my guy, and so I love watching Patrick. I love watching Lamar, Josh Allen. I love watching Joe Burrow and the weapons that he has. I love watching Tua because Tua plays the game a different way, and I would love for him to be healthier if he was to be able to finish out full seasons. Because I think Tua is one of those guys that's truly accurate. He throws with anticipation, doesn't have the strongest of arms, and he has a little bit of dog in him, which I would love for him to protect himself a little bit more. But sometimes you just can't pull back that kind of energy when you already have it. And then also, Baker Mayfield brings a different type of attitude to the game where he has a linebacker mentality, from the quarterback position. And so I just love watching these particular guys, and they all present something different. And so obviously I add Jalen Hurts in there because that's my guy.
I
was just going to say, if you don't say Jalen, we got to ask why.
Well, no, I mean, Jalen's like a little brother to me.
Okay.
I've been mentoring and talking to Jalen since his name was called.
Okay.
And I tried to explain to people when he was drafted that he was coming into the quarterback room as the grown man in the room. Here's a guy that has so many offensive coordinators since his freshman year at Alabama, all the way to Oklahoma, to Philadelphia. And so he's learned 4 different offenses in 4 or 5 years.
Wow, I didn't think about it like that, yeah.
And so, and he was coached by his dad in high school. And people don't realize he was the starting quarterback in Alabama as a senior in high school. He went up in the spring, played spring ball, competed to win that position to start his freshman year at Alabama University.
That's crazy.
And to go to the national championship.
Right.
That is wild.
And so it says a lot about like him winning the Super Bowl or going to the Super Bowl 2 years. That's not a shock to me because he's played almost every year. He's played in the national championship game almost, except when he was at Oklahoma.
The one thing that we do say about Jalen, he carries himself like an older soul.
Like a professional.
Yeah, he's very professional.
Exactly.
He's very professional.
That's my point. Like these young kids in college need to take on the role of these guys like Jalen and be more professional. And I guarantee you this, they'll make more money. If you take the gold out your mouth, you stop walking around with $200,000 around your neck. You talking in third person in the media when you get an interview. Like these are different things that they need to understand. Yeah, the money you're getting to go to the university, that's good with the collective and all of that. But you can make so much more money. Like for instance, Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark, everybody want to talk about what she's making now, what she's done. Caitlin Clark made like $3 million off the court from State Farm and all this other stuff because that's the professionalism is where the money is. Okay. Outside of what you're doing.
Yeah, I hear you on that. Back to the field. Who was the corner or safety that gave you the most trouble throughout your career?
You had Dion, who I played against Dion when he was in Dallas. I think when he was in Washington, when he was in Baltimore, Erneas Williams with the Rams. He was solid, Hall of Famer. Safeties. I mean, Sean Taylor was an animal at safety. Yeah. Troy Polamalu was a beast. Darren Sharper. Even my own Brian Dawkins, I see him every day at practice. And, obviously I didn't have to compete with him come game time because he changes into a whole different person come game time. But again, like DNs, Michael Strahan, T. Suggs, like all these guys that I played against that are Hall of Famers and were dynamic, at their position.
What are your thoughts on the tush push and them trying to get rid of it?
I don't have a problem with it because the funny thing is everybody has tried it. Not everybody has been as successful as the Philadelphia Eagles. Mm-hmm. Nobody's gotten hurt. Mm-hmm. Nobody's careers ended because of it. Now, is it hard? Yeah, I'm sure it's hard to stop. But Kansas City stopped Buffalo when they tried to do it 3 times.
That's a fact.
You know what I'm saying? I think Baltimore had their reign with it a little bit, but then they just decided not to put Lamar in harm's way and then just give it to Derrick Henry. The list goes on of other teams that have tried it. They just haven't been as successful as Philadelphia.
Now, you dropped some names when we was talking about how y'all had Philly on fire when it came to rap, Beanie Siegel, Petey Crack. Who were some of the guys that you were listening to on your way to the stadium? Like, what was Donovan listening to in his car?
State Property, Eve, all my Philly representatives in rap. I was an R&B head. I was an R&B head.
Me too. I love R&B, man.
And remember, at that time, we had Music, Soul Child, Bilal, all the R&Bs from Philly. But me being from Chicago, and people, may get a little with it. But I was an R. Kelly fan.
Yeah.
R. Kelly in the booth.
Yeah.
R. Kelly in the booth.
R. Kelly in the booth.
All of us were.
Yeah.
R. Kelly in the booth. From Avant. And I'll even throw my girl, the Brad, in there because she's from the crib as well.
Absolutely.
So I was a mix depending on how I was feeling at that particular time.
Mm-hmm.
It was either R&B remixes, or was it just straight up hardcore rap?
I like how Donovan went from State Property.
Yeah, he had to get his Jill Scott in there first, though.
He went State Property, then he went all the way to R&B. Like, no, that's a complete playlist.
What would be your top 5 Philly rappers?
That's hard.
You got to go Beans. You gave us Beans already.
Yeah, but that's hard because you got Beans. You got Beans, Freeway.
Yeah.
Eve. Always got to put Eve in there because she changed the game for the females in the rap game.
Facts.
That's the next 2 is kind of hard.
Well, he said State Property, so that covers a lot.
Yeah, so that kind of throws at least 4.
Yeah.
And you were gone by the time Meek probably showed up, right?
Yeah.
Well, Meek actually, I was toward the out. I was on my way out, but my brother worked with Meek. But Meek is definitely in that top 5, obviously representing Philly.
Yeah.
Because when it comes to old school, like Will Smith and all them, if you want to put Will Smith in that, that group, but what Will Smith did just kind of on both angles, added a little bit more to the game.
Do your kids like Uzi?
You know what? They don't. I mean, I don't know what they listen to. I don't understand some of the stuff they listen to now, man. Because it's not so much of the lyrics like when we used to listen to Nas, Jay-Z, like all back at that time, like we were about lyrics, Common.
Yeah.
Now it's just like you got to have a catchy hook and a beat.
Yeah.
That's it.
Because some of the stuff, I don't think they open up their mouth to say, right? You know what I mean? It's beyond mumble rap now.
Yeah.
Like back in the day, you had the mumble rap. Now,
now it's no rap.
Jaw.
Yeah, no, it's just don't even say nothing.
And shit.
Right.
Did anyone try to rap in the locker room?
You had some freestyle sessions.
Okay.
You had some freestyle, but it wasn't prevalent like that. It wasn't like we had one guy that can drop some bars. Like some people, you try to push them to rap because it's going to be stupid. It's one of them guys like you have somebody read, but he really can't read like that.
Yeah.
So let's make him rap.
Yes, let's make him rap.
Some rookie hazing for sure.
So we spoke to one of your former teammates, LaShawn McCoy. We had him on probably last week. Was that last week? 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago, yeah.
And talking to him, he wants to know why is it that or why do you feel like Philly fans don't embrace Donovan McNabb like you're not the guy that really helped bring the Eagles back to a respectable organization?
I don't know. That's one that I can't answer, to be honest with you. I mean, I did what I did. I did a lot of stuff in the community. I ingratiated with Philadelphia. So at some point they always kind of was, he's not one of us, whatever the hell that means. But you know, it was
from
always
saying that about somebody from Chicago is crazy.
Right, you know what I'm saying? He's not one of us. Like, oh, okay, what that mean? 'Cause I got two parents in the house. Like,
right,
I don't get,
right.
You know what I mean? So
right.
I get penalized.
First to 5 NFC championships.
Yeah,
I know how to carry myself like a wrong man. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Whatever it may be. But you know what's funny? Like, you'll hear a small percentage of people that say stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the mass percentage of people know that I'm all about Philly, and they were very supportive of what I've been able to accomplish and do, and what I was able to do in my decade of playing there.
Absolutely.
The success that we've had and everything I was able to accomplish.
Yeah, I mean, Philly fans individually are good people, but when they get together, they're some of the worst animals I've ever come across in my entire life. Like, to the point that you take them to 5 NFC championships and they honor a bartender that made special teams and make a movie about it. Like, Philly fans are the weirdest human beings I've ever fucking met.
But you know what it is? It's at that time, it wasn't social media, it was talk radio.
Yeah.
And so, you know, people want to, you know, expose or kind of let out bad energy of how they feel about a game, how they feel about, and then I became a lightning rod. My name became a lightning rod for people to, you know, express their feelings about how I played in the game, or how, whatever it may have been, or we won, it wasn't because of me, whatever it may have been. And it became about talk radio. And so anytime I speak, like even probably after this show we're doing, and y'all put excerpts out about, you know, about some of the questions and some of my answers, I'm sure a whole lot of people will probably come negative about, you know, I can't stand when he talks, or no one cares, you know, whatever it may be.
While they're watching it.
I'll always explain to people, if you mention my name, that means you're thinking about it.
That's a fact.
So thank you. You know, I appreciate you.
Who are some of your most underrated quarterbacks in the league right now? I know you said Tua. You kind of feel like he deserves more love. Okay, who are some of your most underrated quarterbacks right now in the league?
I would say probably Russell Wilson.
Oh, okay.
You know, I'll throw. You know, Justin Herbert, although people put Justin in that top 5, which I don't think he's a top 5 quarterback, but he's underrated because this offense that Harbaugh has incorporated is old school. It's run first, play action, quick game, explosive plays. So he's going to now start to explode, I believe, in this offense. I think people like, what's my man's name? He's out in Oakland now. From Seattle, Geno Smith.
Yeah,
Geno is since his opportunity, he's flourished in the moment. He's played well. I think Brock Purdy, what he's been able to do so far, being an Arizona kid too, showing some love. And guys like that, I just look at guys like that. That I think, like 2 guys that I look at and I'm kind of watching to see what happens these next couple of years for them is Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields.
Okay.
I hope the best for Justin because he's a good kid, comes from a great family, and he just needs an opportunity where he's in a great system, where they have great players around him to be able to just play his game.
Yeah. Playing against Belichick, do you have any predictions for this upcoming season with North Carolina?
I think they'll be competitive. I think they'll be probably a little bit of midway in the pack in the ACC, because he doesn't have his full recruits in. I think he's been recruiting heavily of the 27 class and a little bit of the 26 class. And so the 25 class, he hasn't been able to kind of jump on that because he came in late. He got a few guys, and I think the transfer portal for a school like Carolina would be big. Yeah. Because who doesn't want to wear the Jordan brand? Right. Who doesn't want to wear the baby blue? I always dreamed of playing in North Carolina. And so I think for Belichick, I think 2 years from now, 3 years from now, they'll be up in the likes with Clemson, Florida State, and in that where you start talking a little bit about North Carolina football.
Now, before we let you go, Donovan, I got to bring this up. So your former teammate Freddie Mitchell put together an album, and there's there's remnants. I'm hearing things that there may be a Donovan McNabb verse. You may have recorded a verse for an album. Is that true? Did you lay some bars down?
You talking about me on Freddie's album?
Yeah.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
I was gonna try to get you to spit some bars real quick.
Absolutely not. If Freddie's doing that, that's gonna be interesting and hilarious. Would I be on his? No, absolutely not. I've as the fellas get together, we have fun. We bring the red cups out.
Yeah.
We start spitting some stupid bars that don't make sense, but we think it's hot.
Yeah.
You can't take it nowhere else.
Yeah, it stays here. It stays here.
He recorded it though.
And so if he did record this in the booth and thing came out like he's Dylan, spit hot fire.
Yeah.
Speaking of bars, we put together a list of rappers that have name dropped you in their verses. And we wanted to see if you could guess which rapper it was. We'll start with the first one. Excuse me, but cuse me. Got to see the entendre there.
Got it.
Excuse me, what happened? I'm flyer than Robin. I'm flyer than an eagle. Yeah, Donovan Mcnabb. Do you know what rapper that is?
These were Philly rappers?
Nah, it's just across the board rappers in general.
No, who's that?
Oh, the barbs are going to kill you. That's Nicki Minaj.
Nicki Minaj.
Is it?
Yeah.
What song was that?
Shaking It for Daddy. Pause.
Whoa.
I answered your question.
Yo, Donovan,
you asked me a question, I answered it.
Donovan turned around, he made sure wifey wasn't walking in the room. Like, wait, what?
Okay. I definitely had to look that up. Really?
It's Robin Thicke and Nicki Minaj.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you get some R&B there.
Robin was popping back then. Okay. I don't know if I'm going to type in Shaking It for Daddy. But
yeah, you don't feel right typing that in. Yeah,
I don't know what may pop up.
It would definitely fuck with your algorithms for sure.
All right, another one. When we met you was a V like Madonna. Now you in the field running plays like Donovan McNabb before you get in the cab.
Oh, yay.
Kanye, talk about our love.
From the crib,
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening now, but he's from the crib.
Nobody
He was
knows
at the
what's
crib at one
happening
point.
Yeah.
You take the next one just based off the lyrical content in there.
All right, last one.
They have some words that I probably just, I don't know if I should spit this one.
I got you.
You kindly pass.
Yeah, I got you. And I rock my rag like it's 88 and niggas still rocking shafts.
Pause.
So put the hundreds in the bag or I'm going to put the eagle to your helmet and the 50 to your chest like Donovan McNabb.
Was that a me? Was that me?
No, that's the game.
Whoa, that's from West Coast.
100 bars and running.
100 bars. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I'll definitely have to listen to that one.
Yeah, you could type that in. That one you can type in.
Yeah.
I mean, we have this one here.
Was that like a remix of NWA or something?
It was on the 100 Bars and Running, which was like original diss to G-Unit. I think it was probably on the NWA beat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, this has his name in it, but one of my favorite Beanie Siegel songs, period.
Yes.
Siegel played with them Eagles. Maul, you can put that word there?
Niggas don't get tagged.
Throw bullets out. Them dirty birds like McNabb. Trying to go back and forth.
We gave you a little back and forth on that last. My partner can't say that one, Donovan. He can't say that one.
I can dig it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Donovan, we appreciate you, man. Congratulations. What's this, 20 years on the cover of Madden?
Yes, sir.
We appreciate you, a legend in every sense of the word. Thank you for everything you did for the game. Thank you for the way you paid for our black quarterbacks that are playing today. We appreciate you, a legend forever. Thank you for taking time to kick it with us today, bro.
I appreciate you guys having me, man. We got to swag out that couch, though. We got to upgrade that couch.
Yeah.
No, we gonna listen. We working.
It's a deep couch too. I sit like this.
It's all right for what we doing right now. We ain't in the house. We have never had this type of couch in the house, but it's great for what we doing right now.
Not all of us pay the same taxes in Arizona.
Yeah.
We don't get to keep our money like you.
We in New York, bro. They're killing us with these taxes. This the type of money our taxes could afford right here. We appreciate you, bro. Thank you, man.
Appreciate that, no doubt.
Love.
No